Hello, and welcome to a special episode of Technologized, a podcast about technology as a force for good in the world. I'm your host, Doreen Bogdan-Martin, Secretary General of ITU, the UN Agency for Digital Technologies. Joining me today is a visionary digital transformation leader, Sweden's Minister of Public Administration, Erik Slottner. Minister, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me to this podcast.
So we just wrapped up the Partner to Connect annual meeting, where we celebrated inspiring pledges aimed at accelerating meaningful connectivity for everyone, everywhere. Sweden's commitment to digital inclusion, from your leadership on bridging the gender gap in STEM to leveraging AI for inclusion, sets a powerful example for the world. Your country's support for digital services beyond its borders is the kind of leadership that the world needs now more than ever. And we're so glad to have you with us. With that, Minister, are you ready to get started?
Of course I am, and I'm very glad to hear that introduction, I must say.
Thank you. So, Excellency, my first question is about gender equality and innovation. So tell us, how does Sweden approach digital inclusion, and how does it address gender equality and advance women's participation in STEM? And also, if you could share, what impact does that approach have on the Swedish innovation ecosystem more broadly? Over to you.
Yeah. First of all, one thing that we maybe not always think about is access to internet, to connectivity. I mean, that is a prerequisite to be digitalized in general. So first of all, we have to connect our societies, we have to connect our countries, our industry, our working places, our homes, and our societies in general. That is one prerequisite, and that's why we in Sweden have invested very much in rolling out fiber to get fast speed internet to almost everyone in Sweden, but also to roll out 5G, so we are well connected. That is one prerequisite. Still, we know that there are some groups in the society who are not as included as other or as the average population, not least among elderly people. We see that the participation is lower and the digital exclusion is higher. Mm-hmm. We can see that among disabled people as well, actually, and in some socio-economic groups as well, and among some immigrants to Sweden. We don't see that gap very clear when it comes to gender between women and men. Both women and men in Sweden are very digitalized, they are very well connected. But when it comes to the educational system and the STEM education, we see a majority that is men. And we have to attract more women, of course, to get more role models. In the university world, the majority is women. But in this kind of education, the majority is men. And that we have to be more focused on in the future to attract more women, not least younger women, and to increase the interest already in lower age for mathematics, technology, and science in general among girls and young women. So that is one thing. And we just presented a proposition from the government where we increased investments in science. And of course, that increase in investments in education regarding science has to also, one aim has to be attract more women.
Oh, excellent. I mean, that's interesting that you have balance in terms of men and women that are connected, but you're not seeing sufficient girls and women entering the sector. So great to hear that you're investing in that. If I could maybe move to secure and resilient digital infrastructure, which of course is critical to today's interconnected world. If you could share a little bit what strategies Sweden has adopted so that you can ensure that your networks are not only robust, but also that they're inclusive and accessible to all.
First of all, and this is so urgent and very obvious these days after Russia's aggressive invasion of Ukraine, that how much it means with resilient and robust telecommunications. Without that robust communication, Ukraine wouldn't have fought so well, wouldn't have been able to fight so well as they have done. So robust electronic communication is one prerequisite. And we talk now much more about redundancy as well. If one subsea cable, for example, get destroyed, you have another who can substitute that cable. So redundancy, robustness, resilience, all those are very important. And as a part of the total defense policy in Sweden, we increase now heavily our investments in protecting our telecommunications, which is an important part of our defense policy. And then we also have different measures regarding cybersecurity. We are now building up a cyber security center. We have a special strategy for cyber security to protect our data, to protect our digital systems. That is another important thing, of course. And when we are developing new AI tools, for example, cybersecurity and protection of sensitive and private data is another very important thing. And then we talk very much about and emphasize the need of trusted vendors of 5G, 6G, of connectivity that we can trust on and that are reliable. That is so important for the democratic world and also to respect human values.
So you've just mentioned AI. If we could shift a little bit and hear from you, your perspective and the approach that Sweden is taking when it comes to artificial intelligence, and how can we use AI to further foster digital inclusion?
Oh, AI brings us so many possibilities. I mean, we just know a few of them until now, and every day there is, the invention is going on so fast. Sometimes it can be a bit scary, but most of all, it's very exciting to see all this development. And we see how AI in the healthcare sector can save lives actually by predicting and discovering different diseases in a much earlier stage, for example. We can see how the elderly care system can be improved by AI to predict different kinds of behavior and diseases and falls, for example. That is very common among elderly people. We can see even in the education sector how you can find children with different kind of problems with reading and understanding and so on. So, AI is really huge, give us so many possibilities. But we need a strategy to tackle AI, to use all the possibilities and the advantages it gives to us, but also to handle the risks, not least the ethical risks that we also see with AI. So now we are working on a digitalization strategy in Sweden where AI will be kind of an important overarching topic in that strategy. We appointed an AI commission more or less a year ago, and they have given the reports now to the government with 75 proposals to the government on which measures we should take now, actions we should take to enhance the AI. And here as well, connectivity is a prerequisite. Without 5G, we can't use and develop AI. So we have to continue rolling out 5G. There are a few examples. And also when we invest now in development and research and development, AI, it must be much more focus on AI. And also legal prerequisites have to be modernized, have to be adopted to the society we live in now. So we can share data much more than today, so we can increase the amount of data, but to make it in a safe way that respect human values and protect sensitive data and personal data.
So you mentioned the issue of risks. And I just wanted to touch on young people. And of course, young people who are active in the digital space on social media. We see more and more challenges linked to online safety, mental health. How does Sweden address some of those challenging impacts of social media on young people?
Still, we have much more to do when it comes to this area. This is a question that a colleague of mine, the Minister for Social Affairs, is very committed to. And a lot of public authorities are responsible for this kind of question, how to protect children and young people on internet and not least in social media. We see there are a lot of risks related to high use of social media and too many hours spent on your iPhone, on internet, and especially on social media. So especially among children and young people. So we have said, the government has said that we want to reduce the amount of hours that children spend on social media. And one of our public authorities has given recommendations to parents now how to act when have a child spending too much hours with his or her cell phone or iPhone. And the authority has also given recommendation on hours. What is a maximum hours a child should be on his or her iPhone, for example. And that is kind of a guideline to parents, because this is not so easy for parents either. It's not easy to know the negative effects that social media and iPhones can give to their children. And sometimes parents are maybe a bit afraid of intervening in their children's life, and they need guidelines, they need support and help from the public sector, how to act, and when does the use of social media and digital media in general harm your children. That is to help the parents, not to control them.
Well, it's great to hear the actions that you're taking. ITU is also very focused on child online protection with our program and our governing body group as well. It's key to focus on protecting young people. But
and
also,
I could add to that also, because EU, the European Union, is very committed to this as well, and a lot of countries in the European Union are focusing on this right now, how to tackle this problem. I know Denmark, the Netherlands, Spain, just to mention three. I could add Greece to that list as well. So and we have the newly adopted legislation, the DSA, Digital Services Act, that is there to protect people, and especially young people, from harmful content. And that is, that is one example, but probably, or for sure, we have to do much more in the future.
So, Minister, Sweden is considered a digital success story with the high level of connectivity, with the high percentage of the population with digital skills that's far above the EU average. If you could share what maybe some of the factors that led to that success, and if you were going to share them with other countries, what things would you highlight?
I would say connectivity maybe is the most important experience from this. We were one or maybe the first country in the world who rolled out 4G, and the coverage of 4G is very high, or was very high in Sweden. Now we replace it with 5G instead, but connectivity has been very important. A lot of Swedish households also, by subsidies from the state, I think it was, bought a PC, a personal computer. So a huge amount of the Swedish households had a computer in their own home. And also in schools, in many schools, each student, each pupil got its own computer. So that was a way to make children mature, digital mature, and used to the tools, and not afraid of it, rather being excited about it. We have also had a lot of successful private companies who has developed, just to mention Spotify is one example of a Swedish innovation, and I could mention a lot more. So we have had climate in Sweden where it's been attractive to found or build new companies within this sector, and also competence to educate people in digitalization. That is so important. And skills, digital skills will be a very important topic in our digitalization strategy, to get a broad competence when it comes to digital skills, but also focus on the top skills. So we really have to focus on different kind of skills and digital competence.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And it's also great that you're also investing in girls as well. So you can build the pipeline. Maybe just a question on affordability. The cost of connectivity continues to be a major barrier when it comes to developing countries in particular, with the high cost of devices, the high cost of services, data packages. Do you have any thoughts about what the international community can do to get those costs down? How can we make connectivity more affordable?
For each country, or for all countries who want to develop and advance economically, I mean, connection is a precondition. Without connection and connectivity, you can't develop economically, and that is hardly impossible. So every country should understand that this is a way of advancing economically. And the more countries and the more society who demands connectivity and 5G, the more likely it is that the costs will come down. Because if the demand increases, the prices normally goes down. So that's what I hope for. I must also say that in Sweden we have, which is another maybe reason why we are so connected today, the government gives subsidies to companies who roll out fiber. So that's why we now have fiber in rural areas, because we give money to roll out or to build fiber in the whole of Sweden. And maybe more states should subsidize rolling out of fiber or 5G or other connectivity.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Perhaps just a last question. Sweden is a partner to connect, and we're happy to have you as part of that coalition which seeks to connect the hardest to connect. If you have thoughts about what more Partner to Connect could be doing, or what more you think Sweden could be doing as a partner in Partner to Connect.
One of those missions that you have is to reduce the digital gap in the world. And by rolling out more connectivity is one of the measures to do that. And as we mentioned, more than 2.5 billion still lack internet. I mean, that is a huge challenge, and but such an important mission for ITU to work with. And I see that the most important in the future.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, Minister Slottner, thank you so much for sharing Sweden's incredible journey. Your country's leadership in advancing digital inclusion and gender equality really shows what's possible when innovation meets ambition. ITU, of course, shares that ambition, and we won't stop until we get everyone, everywhere, meaningfully connected, and digital transformation is sustainable. Sweden's support for initiatives like Partner to Connect, and especially the commitment of leaders like you, Minister, are bringing that vision closer to reality. To our listeners, thank you so much for joining us. Stay tuned for the next episode of Technologized, wherever you get your podcast. Thank you.